every time I watched the Showtime at the Apollo, they would never boo the children. I thought that was an unspoken rule to never boo the children. You can't boo the children. And if you sing a gospel song, you can't boo the Jesus. Well, hello there, love bugs. Hello there, Bellas. If you have not already done so, please remember to like, share the Facebook, subscribe, and visit uptopbeauty.com for these Mick shades in red. We have them coming in black, tortoise, and I think another color. We also have these headbands coming in. They are like, anyway, just go on over there and check it out. And if you are not already a part of this book club, please hit the Patreon link below and or the join button here on the YouTube. And for a small monthly fee of $5, you babies, yes, you can be privy to all the shenanigans before the YouTube gets it, if the YouTube gets it. Now, let's talk about, yes, the next book. Be My Baby. How I Survived Mascara, Miniskirts, and Madness. Or My Life as a Fabulous Ronette. By the time I got to George Washington High School, I already knew that show business was going to be my life. I wanted to be the Marilyn Monroe of Spanish Harlem. And I wasn't going to settle for anything less. Opportunity finally snuck up to my door when a white guy named Bobby Schiffman walked into King's Donuts and started flirting with my mother. A lot of the regulars at King's tried to date my mom after she split with my dad, but Estelle and I never paid much attention until Bobby Schiffman. Bobby was different. Estelle and I loved him from the first day we found out that his family owned the Apollo Theater. We weren't about to sit back and watch our mom let such a valuable contact pass us by. So we did everything but beg her to go out with him. "Oh, Mom," Estelle would say, "Bobby Schiffman seems like such a nice guy and so handsome. Don't you think so, Ronnie?" "Yeah," I'd answer. "And if you married him, I'll bet he'd put us up on stage at the Apollo." "Oh, that's what you want?" my mother said. "Well, I don't think I have to marry him just to get you that." By this time, Mom wasn't so set against us going into the Apollo anymore. I think she knew how serious we were about singing, and she didn't see any point in trying to stop us. Grandma had told her how we would spend hours harmonizing in the back bedroom at her house. When I was 14, I even organized a little group made up of me, Estelle, Nadra, and two other cousins, Diane and Elaine. We'd sit up in Grandma's back room all afternoon, working out harmonies to songs we'd heard on the radio. We finally brought our little cousin, Ira, into the group because he was a boy, and we thought that having him sing lead would make us seem more like Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers. We didn't pay any attention to the fact that he was 2 years younger than any of the rest of us, or that he was extremely shy. In our minds, Ira made us a legitimate rock and roll group. So naturally, we were thrilled when my mom finally asked Bobby Schiffman to set us up at a Wednesday night amateur show at the Apollo. "Oh, singers, are they?" "Yeah," Mom answered. "They've been rehearsing a little, and now they're ready to give it a try." "Well," he said, pausing for effect, "okay, anything for you, Fifi." That's what Bobby always called my mom. The poor guy never did get to first base with her, but we got our date at the Apollo, and we were ecstatic. When the big night came, the six of us stood backstage waiting our turn with the 30 or 40 other hopefuls who were going to take their shot at stardom that night. The tension was so thick you could feel it on your skin. And if that wasn't bad enough, the only thing the kids backstage talked about was how mean the Apollo audience could be. Really? So as an adult, I never went inside the Apollo Theater, okay? I went to visit New York once with a Judy of mine, and we walked past the Apollo Theater because we were there from Maryland to see this hip hop concert. I forgot what park it was at, but it was truly an experience. If you have never gone to New York to experience one of them hip hop concerts, I say, girl, you better. Okay? Because life is too short for you not to. We had walked past the Apollo Theater. It was amazing. I wish I could find the pictures, but I took pictures of it. It was amazing. That's when I told y'all we did so much that day that I can't even remember everything I saw, but I remember going to the Coochie Fritas and eating this really good chicken that was deep fried. And I mean, it was good, child. And then this homeless person had came up and sat right next to me. My Judy was on the right of me, and the homeless person was right on the left of me. And I mean, he was looking at me eating those Coochie Fritas. Okay, I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but it was like this really good chicken. That's all I could say, and it was Coochie Fritas. The cook was like, you want me to tell him to go somewhere? I said, no. He obviously sit here every day and wait for somebody to give him the leftover Coochie Fritas. He might as well get mine. He don't want my purse. He don't want my coochie. He don't want Nathan but this plate of Coochie Fritas. So getting back to where I want to say, y'all know I have to go to the left from time to time. Sometimes it throws me off, right? But every time I watched Showtime at the Apollo, when I was growing up, they would never boo the children. I thought that was an unspoken rule to never boo the children. You can't boo the children. And if you sing a gospel song, you can't boo the Jesus. For them to be so nervous, I'm like shocked. Y'all who went to the Apollo Theater on amateur night, did y'all boo the children? Things didn't get any better once we got out on stage. When the Apollo House band started playing Why Do Fools Fall in Love, Ira didn't sing a word. After the audience started laughing at our little lead singer, that's when I decided to take over. I just strutted out across the stage, singing as loud as I could. When I finally heard a few hands of scattered applause, I sang even louder. That brought a little more applause, which was all I needed. The other cousins did their best to keep up with me, and we got through a little number without getting thrown off stage. There was even a little polite applause afterwards, so I guess we did okay. Ira ran straight into the bathroom to throw up, and it was only when we got off stage that I noticed how much we were all sweating. Wasn't it great? I said, all hyped up. But it was obvious from the looks on their faces that Nadra Estelle and my other cousins were just relieved that we got through the number in one piece. The next day, it was back to school, where I was just a regular person again. Clothes seemed like the answer. I figured that nice clothes equaled popularity, so I was determined to be the best dressed girl at GW High School. Back in the 80s, we had this adjective called Fly Betty. And 9 times out of 10, what equated Fly Betty was the things that the rapper girls wore, like Salt and Pepper, or the drug dealer girlfriends wore. That was Fly Betty. I did receive gifts from some drug dealers, because I told you I did have drug dealer boyfriends, okay? So from time to time, I would get some things like the bamboo earrings, maybe some Gucci sneakers, maybe a Sergio Tacchini sweatsuit here and there. And if I didn't have a boyfriend to buy it for me, Mick would always give me her hand-me-downs or whatever clothes she had, because Mick was a very, very big deal back then. And she always got what she wanted. I have like some things now, but I'm not like super duper fly. I was 15 when I started working in the food service department of Montefiore Hospital. And that's where I saw my first dead body. She said first. I'm like, damn, when are we going to get to the second? But she was rolling some food around to one of her favorite patients. Jardy, here go your mashed potatoes and gravy. Here, get up, get this. And Miss Girardi didn't move. She was like, oh shit, Miss Jody might be dead. Miss Jody was dead. After my success at the Apollo, my mother began to agree that my singing career might be something more than just a childish dream. She and my Aunt Susu even agreed to pay for singing lessons for Nadra, Estelle, and me. By this time, Ira had retired from the group, and Diane and Elaine had also dropped out. Their mother, my Aunt Hermione, was real religious, and she didn't want her daughters singing rock and roll for a living. And so the three of us, Nadra, Estelle, and me, were signed up for singing lessons. 2 afternoons a week, we'd take the subway down to Camalucci's studio at 57th and Broadway, where we'd study harmony with old Mr. Camalucci. And the old Italian drove us crazy. So they singing harmony. And you know, Veronica is like, can we sing some rock and roll? Mr. Camalucci was like, rock and roll, girl. Your mammy ain't send you here to sing no rock and roll. Girl, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. The girls looked at each other like, oh, this ain't gonna work. That's when we knew we couldn't win with Mr. Camalucci. But our mothers were paying him $5 per lesson, which was a lot of money back then. So we kept going. His studio was right down the street from the Brill building, which is where all the big music producers and record producers had their offices. He was a nice older man who always picked up the tab for our sandwiches and Pepsis at the coffee shop. He'd heard us singing one afternoon when he was scouting talent at Camalucci's studio, and he took an instant liking to us. When my mother came down to pick us up, Mr. Holocaust told her how talented we were. There's plenty of call for a bright young trio like these girls, he said. You get them a name and I'll see if I can line up a bar mitzvah or two. Glamorous or not, it was professional work, and we were in heaven. When we told our grandma, she was almost as happy as we were. You'll be just like the Andrews sisters, she told us. We didn't have the heart to tell her we had other plans, so we ended up calling ourselves the Darling Sisters for the first few gigs just to make her happy. Don't ask me how we came up with that name, but I hated it from the start. I thought it was dishonest. Even then, I knew I was going to be somebody in this business, and I didn't want to have a made-up name like the Darling Sisters. So we dropped the Darling Sisters after about 3 bar mitzvahs. Then we started calling ourselves Ronnie and the Relatives, which was a name my mother came up with. We loved getting paid to sing, even if it was just pocket money. But it was frustrating just singing Red, Red Robin in 3-part harmony for a room full of little Jewish kids. By the spring of 1961, we'd been doing bar mitzvahs and sock hops for almost a year, and we were starting to get frustrated. Relax, girls, Mr. Halukas would tell us. Fame takes time, but don't worry, I've got a lot of contacts in the record business. You'll get your shot soon. I was barely awake when Mr. Holocaust called over to my mother's house at 7 a.m. one morning. Can you girls skip school today? Of course we could. Good. Then get Nadra and Estelle and meet me down at Wurlitzer Building on 57th Street at 1:30. Sure, I answered. What's going on? Just make sure you're there, honey, he said. You're going to meet a man named Stu Phillips and dress nice. This could mean a record deal. Mr. Holocaust led us upstairs to the rehearsal studio, a whole row of tiny rooms with a couple of chairs and a piano in each one. He had to peek through a few doors before he finally recognized Stu Phillips behind one of them and shoved us in. Hi, girls, Stu Phillips said as the 3 of us crammed ourselves into the rehearsal room. The whole audition lasted no more than 3 minutes. Stu Phillips had us sing one song. I think it was What's So Sweet About Sweet 16. And before we even finished, he held his hand up and stopped us. That sounds okay, he said. I'll give you a shot. Up until then, the closest we'd come to making a record was when we went over to the store across from my grandmother's, where they had a machine that made little records of your voice for a quarter. You'd wait 3 minutes for it, and then it sounded like shit when you got home. But this was Coldplix Records, the big time. We especially liked the idea of recording for Coldplix after we found out it was a subsidiary of Columbia Pictures.